Today I'm going to show you guys the full process of installing a ceiling fan where we didn't have one before. So we're going to do the full install. I think one of the most annoying things is when you go to flip on a switch in a bathroom and the bathroom fan and the bathroom fan light are on the same switch and they're not separate. So I'm going to show you in the first part the wiring portion, and maybe you're just here for that. If you want the full video, stay tuned, because then we're going to talk about running our ductwork, venting it out the side of the house, and the whole process. So right now it's easier for me to film the wiring portion if I wire it and then attach it. So I'm going to film it, wiring, and then we'll do the whole rest of the install. The main difference in wiring a normal light where you flip a switch and it comes on and off is you would use a wire like this. You have 3 wires. You have your white, which is your neutral, your black, which is your hot, and that carries your power in, and then your ground wire. When you have a situation like a ceiling fan where you want to have 2 separate controlled switches, you need 2 powers or 2 hots. So you still have your neutral, you still have your ground, but then you have your black wire and a red wire. Both of these are going to carry power in because you want to be able to tell your light to come on and only come on, or your fan to come on and only come on. And if you only have one hot, there's no way to do that. So you have to start with a 3rd wire in here. So this is either going to be a 14-3 or a 12-3. So if you want to wire a fan where it has a separate control on each function, you're going to need that extra wire in there. So if you have a light that's existing and you want to change this, you're going to have to fish a run of this from your fan down to your switch. Fortunately, we have full access, so we're going to start with something like this. Now the power can come into the switch with a black and white wire, but then we're going to splay it out and do 2 separate controls. So this light is, or this fan is one I installed somewhere else, and then the person that was going to be living there, they wanted something different. And so it's out of the box already, and it's been installed and removed. So that's why it just doesn't look all brand new. But basically we're going to connect all our wires and then shove them in the junction in there. So we have to have something. You can't just stick a loose wire through like that and have it all loose. So we're going to go ahead and put this clamp on. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to go through that hole. So on the outside, it can hold our wire down. And then on the inside, we're just going to tighten that. And then we'll put our wire through there. So we'll make sure that's loose enough to fit our wire through. If not, we can loosen this just a little bit. Gonna push our wire through. And we do want to have just a little bit. You don't want to have it like this where you have exposed unsheathed wires out there. So you want a little bit of that sheathing to stick through, but just a little bit. The more you have in there that you don't need, all it's going to do is take up room in your box and make it harder to fit everything in there. So that's nice and snug. So our ground is always exposed. We're going to go ahead and strip these just back a bit so we can tie them in with our other wires. On our fan, we have 2 separate grounds. We have our ground for, I didn't even tell you because it doesn't matter. We're going to have our ground for our light and our ground for our fan function. We're going to have 2 neutrals, our 2 whites, for our light and our fan. And then we're going to have 2 different hots for our fan and our light. And sometimes these are color coded. So in my case, it says light connection and fan connection. Sometimes these will be like different colors. Sometimes one is blue. So they're going to signify somehow. If not, you could test and see what goes where. We're basically going to connect all of our grounds together, all of our neutrals or whites together, and then we're going to separately control for their function the light power and the fan power. So I'm going to go ahead and just first connect my ground. So this is the ground coming out, and then it's hooked on underneath there to my green grounding screw. If you're ever nervous that one of these didn't connect well, you can always tug on these a little bit just to make sure that they stay in your nut. If one pulls out, then you're going to want to redo that. We're going to take all of our white wires. So we have 2 coming out of the receptacle box or the fan and light box, and then 1 coming in. Now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to connect my light to my black wire. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. You just kind of got to remember. And then my power for my fan, I'm going to connect to my red wire. Now I'm going to put everything back inside my box. They have a cavity in there that this is all going to fit in. This has a little lip that's going to stick in there. So it's going to tilt in like that. And then you push that down and you put your screw on, and then you're going to tighten this. Our fan is wired and we can move forward with the install. And of course, I'll show you how to wire it to the switch. But basically, if you want to know now, when you wire it to the switch, since we did the black to the light and the red to the fan, the switch that controls your light will, at the top of the interrupter, you'll put the black one. And the other switch that controls your fan, you'll use the power in and then put the red on top of that. So you'll have two separate switches. Or you can get one of those switches that has two different toggles on it. Now we're in a bit of a pickle trying to figure out where is the least bad option to put our fan. Normally I would put it about in the middle and about in the middle. So it would be right here. But I have to vent out that way because I have a deck right here and I don't want to vent out under my deck. I don't want to crawl under there to drill my hole. No one's going to crawl under there to clean out underneath of the, when the fan box needs cleaned out on the outside, the little animal guard. And so I can't vent my fan out that way because this ductwork is in my way and I can't fit my 4-inch duct above or below it. So I need to put my fan on this side so that I can vent it out that part of the house. So I'm gonna actually come this way a little bit. It's not ideal, but we're gonna do it that way because we have to work around this and I don't wanna switch that duct out. That's just kind of outside of the scope of our job. So we're gonna put our fan approximately right here because we have to factor how we're gonna vent out of the house. I needed to add some blocking, so I had something to attach the fan to. So I did that. I installed the fan and then I went ahead and I attached my wiring. I think you need to attach it within 12 inches from any fixture or receptacle and then within every 4 or 4.5 feet along a run. We moved a little bit around in this bathroom, so it was actually a half bath. So this wall actually was way farther that way. So I just cut it and moved it out and extended it. And then, so our light switch coming in, I think was here, but there's gonna be a shower tub right here. So I don't want the wire, I don't want the light switch right outside of that, even though we have a little section that will be, it's just too close. So I'm actually gonna move my light switch over here, but since this will be a barn door, I feel like this is just way too close. So I'm gonna put my light switch right here for everything. We're gonna have our ceiling fan and our light, and I'm gonna test it and see how bright it is. I don't have it yet, so I don't know how bright it is. I know those aren't bright enough on their own, but I got one of those bathroom mirrors that are lighted, and I don't know how bright it will be in the space. So that will also be on a switch as well, right here. So I'm gonna run everything and see how bright that light is. And if I think I need a supplemental light, I'm gonna add a can light or a little pot light over where the vanity is gonna go. So we're gonna put all those switches right here. Our wiring situation is gonna seem a little bit crazy because I have something else I have to deal with too. So this is my power coming in. Of course, it's turned off at the breaker box. This is my wire going to the fan, and it has a black, a red, a white, and a copper. And then this is my wire also going out. We're gonna put it on the same switch. I got a switch that has 3 separate switches. This is my wire going to what is going to be, one is gonna be controlled by a switch, and that's gonna be our lighted vanity mirror. And then one is gonna be on all the time, and that's gonna be our outlet. And so this, I have the black, the double wire, the black and the red, because one's gonna control. So we're gonna have the switch for the fan, the overhead light, and the vanity mirror. And then I'm gonna connect one of these to go to the outlet to always be on. So if you were just doing your overhead fan, you would not have this, but that's why it's there. You would literally just have power in, and then you would have your either 12-3 or 14-3 here going to your bathroom fan, and you would have most likely 2 switches instead of 3. So if it seems like this is a little bit overwhelming, you're probably not gonna be in this situation. And I have a lot of extra wire because what I'm gonna do is manage my wire and then pull these up and staple once I get that far. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this is our bathroom fan and light, our overhead components right here. And this is our bathroom outlet and our mirror that has a light on it. So now here's our switch. Our black is going to be our power coming in, and our green is going to be our ground. And we're going to connect all of our whites or our neutrals together. And then each of these are going to be going out to what we control. So again, we can do, depending on how we want it, our fan, our overhead light, and our mirror light, or whatever. Everything's going to basically be connected at some point. So we can go ahead and strip all of our wires. So I'm going to connect my 1, 2, 3 grounds, plus I'm going to add a pigtail to attach out to my switch. We got way more extra than we need, but that's okay. So we're going to tuck that out of our way. And we're going to go ahead and put our 3 neutrals together. So this black is going to be my power in. And then I'm also going to take this black, because what I want to do, this is my power in. So it's powering my switch. But I also want it to always send a signal to my outlet over there. So these two are going to connect, and then I'm going to pigtail off and put that onto one side of the switch. Then on my 3 switch parts, I'm going to have my overhead light, I'm going to have my overhead fan, and then this is going to be my switched vanity mirror. So I need 3 to connect these because I need a pigtail off of there. So again, we have our power in, our power to our outlet that we want to have always on, and then just our pigtail bringing power into the whole switch. Okay, now we can start looking at our switch. So we're going to add our ground, and we're going to power it. Now we got to bring our power in. Then you kind of just got to think of how logically you would want this to be. So like if you prefer it to be in any sort of order, gosh, that's kind of just your own preference. And I think the people that live here will get used to it. So maybe my vanity light here, I just don't think it matters. Fan, light, vanity light, whatever. I don't think it matters. But if you had a preference, just pay attention to that. So this is my overhead fan is my red, my overhead light, and then my vanity mirror, which I do not have yet.
I want to be able to test everything before I move forward. So with the power still off, I'm going to go ahead and attach my light and fan portion. Then I'll turn the power on and test it. I'll actually probably use this light as I work on the space, and then I'll just remove this exterior portion before we do drywall. I'm going to come back tomorrow to drill my hole for my exterior vent. So right now I'm just running my ducting so everything's ready for tomorrow. To attach the ducting to the fan housing, there's this little clip-on attachment piece that came with the fan. I clipped that on, and then I pulled the ducting out from the insulation and I taped that onto this piece with ducting tape. This is this really shiny tape made for ducting. It's not duct tape. And then what I did was I attached it with a clamp, and then I pulled the insulation over as close as I could and then taped that on a few places.
If you have never cut a hole large like this for something, there is a heads up I want to give you. This is a 4-inch pipe. If you cut a 4-inch hole the exact same size, you are not going to be able to fit this through unless you bend it and mangle it to get it through. The other thing is, see, the pipe is 4 inches, but see, this is thicker. So this is actually a little bit bigger than 4 inches. You need to cut your hole larger. So this is a 4.5-inch hole saw. So I'd have an extra 1/4 inch on each side, and actually not even quite that because I have this edge piece, but this sticks out. So I have, that's going to cover the bigger part of my hole. So you need, if you're cutting a 4-inch pipe, you need to do like a 4 1/4-inch hole or a 4.5-inch hole. If you're doing a 6-inch pipe, do 6 1/4, 6 1/2. You need to be a little bit larger because you're going to struggle. The other thing too is the way these work is you start with the bit, it kind of grounds you, it gives you, holds your placement, and then this spins and cuts the hole. If you cut a hole and then you need to make it bigger, which I've done this before several years ago, the whole hole's out, and then you try to kind of cut a new one and it's kind of dancing around and skating, and you kind of have to grind it down or cut it out a different way. So Obviously you don't want to cut your hole too big, but you don't want to cut it too small or it's going to make it really hard to fit everything through. So 4-inch pipe, I'm using a 4.5-inch hole saw.
I didn't really have a great way to get a camera up in here to film this section, so I apologize, but I pulled back the siding and then I found the area where I was going to drill my hole. It was kind of easy for me to tell. I don't have a lot of options for where to put this, but I'm going to put it sort of near the hose spigot outside. So that was kind of what I was measuring off of for my point of reference.
And if you didn't have faith in your home before, we have siding, 1 layer of siding from the outside, and then this little insulation that our siding went over. So we have like 2 layers. That's it. That's the exterior of my house. This is not an ideal bathroom fan location because we have a window right here and then also we have our hose bib right there. But unfortunately, the way that the spacing was, it was this, or we start dealing with this deck, which I didn't want to run into the deck. And then we have a garage over there on a slab. And then we have a lot of components coming through here this way with the HVAC. So we kind of didn't have a lot of other options. So basically we're just gonna go ahead and slide that in there, and then we'll do all our attaching from the inside. But I'm gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna take a silicone exterior caulk and I'm going to put caulk around this whole interior sides and the top. Now, once I put it on, I don't have some now, but I'm gonna come back with another exterior but paintable. I'll probably call it cure, and the sides as well. I'm not gonna do the bottom because if any water got underneath, you want it to be able to drip down, but I will do a water resistant spray foam on the inside too. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do a bead of silicone caulk on here. And I hate not having a gun, but I didn't have a gun at this house, so I just grabbed this at the store. We're gonna get it where we think we're approximately level. Then you can just take one of your little levels and check. Make sure you're using some sort of stainless or exterior screws, because otherwise when they're exposed to the weather, they're either gonna rust and corrode and drip down your house and look horrible. Then like I said, if you wanted to, you could come back around here. Now we have the silicone underneath on the top and the sides, but if you wanted to, you could come back with something here. But if you have a paintable exterior, just make sure you do something that's paintable so when you go to paint your house, you can paint that caulking. I'm gonna kind of make an approximation of how much I think I need and then give myself some extra because I can trim this down more if I need to. Just gonna cut through the insulation with my razor blade to get to the ductwork inside. Now you have that metal coil that runs through it. I'm gonna cut that with a wire cutter because that's going to be hard to cut. Then I'm just going to pull the insulation part back so I can slide this on. I know you can't see this, but I'm just going to slide it onto my pipe that's sticking in from the outside, that length of about, man, I think we had like maybe 14 inches or so. So I've slid it on as far back to the back as I could. And then I'm gonna do a couple of things. First, I'm gonna tape it with this ducting tape. It's not duct tape, it's like a really shiny tape for ducting, and I'm gonna use that. It's pretty sticky. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put one of these clamps on too. So again, I apologize, I know you guys can't see that. And then I'm gonna put my insulation back that direction over the full vent, even the piece coming from the outside. So this, all the way probably back to here, is our piece sticking out from the outside. We've taped our venting over that, and then we have our clamp right here. That's a little metal strip. So now I'm gonna spray foam back here in this gap, and then I'm gonna push this all the way back snug against the wall.